And I didn't write this one down, but I'm going to do this right out of the gate. Let's bring Zander Krause in from Birds 365. The guys are doing a great show. Absolutely awesome. And by the way, the predictions and shit on July 23rd, and folks, you're right to be optimistic. I'm not trying to say that. But what I'm trying to tell you is, here's what I see today from my perspective. And Zander, I'll ask you this. So when you look at this football team, and I'll ask you the question you asked Bill, you think this football team this year has more talent on it than it did a year ago?
I don't know if I could say more talent, but I could say better position to win. I think with the coordinators that they have, with the more experienced on offensive players, with AJ and Jalen and Devontae taking that next step. I don't know if I could say more talent. I mean, you lost Jason Kelce, who's a Hall of Fame football player. You lost Fletcher Cox, who's a near Hall of Fame football player. You lost Haason Reddick, who's been our best pass rusher really in the last quite some time. So, those are three big guys. I think Bryce Huff is going to be good. I'm not sure I can say that he's going to be that good. I think Cam Jones is going to be solid. I don't think he's going to be Jason Kelce. I think Jalen Carter is going to be fantastic. I don't think he's going to be Fletcher Cox yet. So it's tough to make up for that type of talent loss. Now, I do think you got better at safety. I think you're deeper in the secondary for sure. I think you have better all-around talent on defense, but I don't know if I could say more talented, but it's not like a talent drop-off where I'm like, oh, you can't win. Like the Chiefs were less talented last year too, but they could still win, if that makes sense.
So do you agree that it's been 3 years of 3 different rosters, and quite frankly, you can actually say 3 years of 3 different Jalen Hurtses?
Well, yeah, and that's where, like I said yesterday on the show, that's where I understand where you as an outsider and somebody that's not grown up in Philly and is a fan of this team you can say that about Jalen Hurts. He's only given us one great year of MVP quarterback play, and that's why we need to see it again this year, and we need to, it's all come down to him. It all comes down to him this year, in my opinion. I've said that from the jump. We're going to go as far as he's going to take us. So if he's going to turn it on and be an MVP quarterback and Kellen Moore is going to pull that out of him, the sky's the limit for this team. They could be a Super Bowl player. If he is not going to rise to that occasion and he's not going to rise to that level, yeah, it might be another disappointing end to the season for the Philadelphia Eagles.
So in your opinion, you think there's a higher ceiling for Hurts? And like he's not, how about this? Don't you think he's going to be somewhere in his career between 22 and 23, and he's going to be somewhere in the middle in there?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he could get better, though. He's still young, Sills. I mean, I think he could, it sucks to say he's going to surpass 22 because I think everybody just goes to like the MVP thing. And, I think from a player perspective, he could be better than 22 if he takes the next step at reading the defenses more, using the middle of the field, understanding blitzes and pickups and all those things, doing the quarterback things that he's going to naturally progress at. I think he could be a better player than 22. Doesn't mean I think he's going to win the MVP, but I think he could be a better player than 22 without a doubt.
Sills, haven't tuned in in live for a while because work has been crazy last couple of months. Wanted to drop and say, how you doing? Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, my friend. We so appreciate it. We know people are going to start coming back in because of the start of the NFL season. Barb says something here. 2022 shouldn't be his high point. Hey, Barb, he was 3 points away from winning the Super Bowl, had a great Super Bowl game, was probably a few votes away from winning the most valuable player that year. If you want to give me that 22 season and you want that 22 year, I'll take that 22 year. If that's his high point and you put 5 of those seasons like that together, look at Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is never going to throw for 4,000 yards. Let's just put that out there. The year he won the MVP in 17, Zander, he threw for 3,100. You're never going to see that guy put up numbers. However, don't turn the ball over, have it 3rd and short, win a ton of football games. That's who Hurts is.
He doesn't need to be that guy.
That's the problem that you have here with that.
He doesn't need to be that guy, though, because that's what Howie Roseman.
That's the guy that they paid.
No, but I'm saying he doesn't need to be the 4,000-yard passer, and that's part of the reason that Howie Roseman has stacked this offense at every turn. I mean, there's not many other quarterbacks in the league that have this type of a caliber of talent around them. You know, in a way, it's built like Brock Purdy's is, where they're not relying on the talent of the quarterback; they're relying on everybody around him. He just has to be good enough to get them the ball. So you're right. They did build it like that. Now I think Hurts has a bigger upside. I think Hurts can be that guy. I don't know. I don't want to go as far as you're going. I think he could be a 4,000-yard passer in this league.
Okay. He's sniffing around it. I mean, he's been 38, 37, so he's sniffing around it. What I can't get is, I don't know how a guy has two wide receivers 2 years in a row with over 1,200 yards apiece, and he can't get over 3,900 passing yards. I've never seen anything like that. Then you turn around and you saw Wentz with 4,000 passing yards with no wide receiver over 500 yards. It blows my mind. But again, different style of players here. I want to show you something about Bryce Huff. And I know we kind of broached this before, but I did a little bit more research on this. What kind of season do you think Bryce Huff is going to have?
I think he's going to have a big season. I really do. I mean, I think he's going to get every opportunity to have the big season. So it's not like I'm projecting he's like, if he plays good, he's going to have a big season because he's the premier pass rusher. He's got a good defense around him. I think at least on that line, I think Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, they're going to eat up a lot of blockers, Dan, even if they're not as good as like Jordan Davis, he's eating 2 blockers, whether he's at the 13th overall pick caliber or not, he's eating 2 blockers. And that's what's going to really free up Bryce Huff. I think he has a big year. I mean, I've been listening to John McMullen talk about him for months now. He is very high on Bryce Huff. And he points to a lot of the stats and the pass rush win rate and some of those the pressure percentages and some of that. It is good. I mean, the numbers are good. That doesn't mean he's going to be that in an expanded role, but boy, the numbers are really good. 2 straight years, Dan, he has led the league in pressure percentage on the edge. Now, granted, he wasn't the top guy over there, so it was a different role, but I think Bryce Huff could have a really big year in this defense. And to be frank, we need him to. If he doesn't, I mean, the defense is in trouble because as we talked about yesterday, you could say the pass rush is the biggest question on defense. Yeah, the linebackers, but linebackers aren't as valuable as pass rushers. If you can't get to the quarterback, defenses, they're going to pick you apart all day long.
Pass rushing affects your corner play.
100, exactly. And that's going to, I mean, if you're not getting home, how much harder is life going to be on those young guys? So that's the whole defense. So look, Bryce Huff needs to have a big year, and I think he will. I really do.
I want to show something to you here. Now, I get what you're saying, but I want to show you what we did with the rookie conversation about Jalen Carter. Every single rookie that comes into this league runs out of gas around week 12 or 13 because they're conditioned to play a 12 or 13 game college football season. They aren't trained for the additional amount of games and practices and the games that you play. And in today's NFL, you play 17. I played 16, and I got to tell you, once you hit week 12, you notice it. So that is something to do with conditioning yourself and preparing yourself to be an NFL player. And you're right. You're paid the money. You've got to get yourself into great shape, but you also got to get yourself into rep shape and into playing shape. Bryce Huff last year had a total of 480 snaps. Josh Sweat last year had 828 snaps, basically almost doubling what Bryce Huff did, which means this to me. When I see 480, here's another one. Reed Blankenship, 943. James Bradbury, 1,057. Even Jalen Carter, 563 snaps. Here's Milton Williams in a limited role or a backup role, 494. Bryce Huff has been a backup and put in situational pass rushing. He's never been put in the game on first and second down. Do you believe and do you agree with me that Micah Parsons gets worn down by the end of the year because teams run at him? Do you agree with that?
I think he could for sure. He has in the past, but I think a bigger factor for him this year is going to be if he doesn't get that contract. He is I think he's a great player, but he has shown that he is he's emotionally high and low. You know, you see that on the podcast. You see that in moments in games. If they don't give him that money, I have a feeling he's one of those players that's going to be like, look, you don't want to pay me my money? I ain't going to give you the type of play that you want. And I'm going to go to the open market, and I bet you 31 other teams are lined up to give me the type of bag that I want to make, because you know that. Pass rushers are coveted in this league, and he's a good one. So I think that could affect him a big time this year. But you're right. I mean, the run thing is big for him. It's becoming bigger for a lot of pass rushers in the league, Dan. I mean, you're not seeing as – now there are still a lot out there, you know, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, even the Watt guy, Max Crosby. These are bigger bodied players. They can handle the run, but the style of pass rusher that the Eagles like, even Haason Reddick, Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, these are undersized guys. These are not run stopping guys. So you could kind of apply that logic to a lot of pass rushers in the league who are, even Josh Sweat, undersized, not undersized, but not this big bodied player, more long and lanky. But
here's the difference. Those guys are starters and have played 800 snaps and understand it. And so to me, it's going to be interesting to see once they start running, because here's what I'm going to do. When I see Bryce Huff out there, I'm going to run at him. I'm going to run right at him.
Yeah, but Dan, you know the modern NFL. Like I get it. They're going to run at him, but that's not how teams create success in the league today. It's not. It's why
how Arizona beat the Cowboys.
Well, you know, in one small sample size, when you get to the playoffs, you got to throw that ball. And that's how it's going. So my point isn't that it doesn't work. My point is that teams today are way more focused on beating you in the passing game than they are in the running game. And that's why it's become lesser value, where they're not drafting run stoppers as much, and they're not not paying run stuffers as much. And it's just a different NFL. And I think that applies to all facets of the game.
Let me switch over to one thing here for a second. Can you believe what's going on in New York with the Jets? So let me throw this at you. So Joe Douglas lets Bryce Huff walk because he doesn't want to pay him. He makes a deal for Reddick, thinking that Reddick's going to come over, and the problem that he had in Philly now became the Jets' problem. And what was Joe Douglas's what was his alternative plan if that guy wasn't going to sign a contract? So basically, Zander, he's in the same position he was before when he didn't want to give Huff the money, with a pass rusher now he doesn't want to give money to, that he needs on his football team. I can't believe Joe Douglas has done a nice job, and I see why he did a good job in Philly, because he's a good player personnel guy. But when it comes to negotiating, he is no Howie Roseman.
No, he's not at all. And rightfully so. And I was one of the people who I didn't love that trade when Howie made it. You know, I was like, well, you know, you get a future pick for a guy that was your best defensive player that we've had in many years. He was 28 sacks in 2 years. This guy was on a tear, and you let him walk for a future third-round pick? And I'm like, I didn't like it at the time. And the more it starts to play out, I think you're going to see how he kind of won that trade. You know, I think Haason deserves more money, but apparently he wants 25, 26, $27 million. Come on, Haason. You're nearly 30 years old. You're a one-trick pony. You're not getting that type of money. Now, where the Jets messed up is you don't make that trade without having this worked out. And that's where Howie would never make a move like that. You know, even when I go back to the last big trade the Eagles have made was A.J. Brown. I mean, I remember sitting there doing the draft show. We had Seth on the set, Derek Gunn was on the set, all these people on the set. And we're like sitting there, Eagles trade for A.J. Brown. 5 seconds later, Eagles extend A.J. Brown 4 years, $100 million. Like, that's like basic stuff. If you're going to trade for a player that is in a contract year, and that's clearly why he was traded, because the team didn't want to get the contract done with him, you got to have that ready, you know. And now that people are talking like the Jets were told he was going to show up without a new deal. Bullshit. They didn't believe that, and they knew that. So that was just a bad move by Joe Douglas. Like, if you're going to make the move and pay him it, fine. You know, Haason could go out and get 12, 14 sacks this year, and you look fine. But now he looks terrible. The trade looks dumb. And people are questioning why you didn't just pay Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff had 10 sacks for you last year, and he got $17 million. What are you going to pay Haason? 22 for a 30-year-old guy? That's where Howie wins.
This is going to sound conspiracy, and you tell me, Zander, check this out.
I love it.
So what if Joe Douglas is doing this? You sit out Haason Reddick for the first 3 games, ensuring that he doesn't get to that percentage of plays that make that trade a second-round pick and keeps it a third-round pick that you have to surrender. Because remember something, you're going to end up eventually getting a compensation of a third-round pick anyway,
right,
of the compensation pick, because you lost that pick with the trade. You tell me, I mean, do you think he's trying to sabotage that playing percentage so it doesn't turn into a second rounder, and that, you still get the guy on the field, but you ensure yourself that it doesn't turn to a 2 and it's a 3?
Yeah, but that's a losing game as a GM. Like, maybe
I agree. Well, I think what they're doing now is losing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, everything that they're doing doesn't make sense. If they're playing that game, you're not playing the right game. Like, you got to be playing to build a winning football team, not worrying about what draft pick you're going to end up giving the Eagles in 2026 or whatever the hell it was. It's a stupid thing for the Jets, what they're doing with him. If you made the trade, commit to the damn trade and pay the player, or don't make the trade. And now they look dumb. I think Howie's probably laughing right now because he's like, this is exactly what I wanted to avoid. I didn't want to come into training camp with, players coming in without contracts, similar to the Cowboys, even the Niners. They have Brandon Ayuk. Now, he showed up, so maybe they're in talks or whatever. We'll find out. But Eagles wanted to avoid that, and they did. And that's where Howie Roseman was definitely right on this deal.
Let's do something positive here. Do you possibly think that last year's 2023 meltdown, they learned a lot of what not to do that's going to benefit Nick and also benefit the entire roster and players of what not to do? Because you know what, if you think about it, Zander, they've had the highest of highs going to the Super Bowl, and they had the lowest of lows in a nuclear meltdown. I don't know about you, but you learn from success and failures.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, is that something that you take into this going? Because look, don't come at it from the negative angle. Come at it like, hey, man, I'll tell you what, I know what not to do now.
Yeah, but do they?
No, hey, I'm being optimistic here.
Yeah, you are, because we haven't heard. Nobody's been able to identify why that happened last year. You go from 10-1 to 1-6 in your last 7 games. You get blown out by an inferior Tampa Bay Bucks team led by Baker Mayfield in Tampa. It was just a joke the end of that year, and nobody has. Now, maybe they know, maybe they have an idea on the back end, and they're not going to say it publicly, which I'm fine with. They don't have to tell everything publicly, but it doesn't seem that way. There's been a lot of commentary by guys who really, it doesn't matter if they tell. And, even like Kenny Gainwell, remember that clip that went viral, Kenny Gainwell? Like, nobody really knows what happened last year. Was it Brian Johnson? Was it the coaches? Was it the players? Was it Haason Reddick causing strife in the locker room? I don't really know. Where were the leaders? Where was Kelsey? Where was Fletcher? Nobody knows. So, I guess you're going to learn from it, but if you can't learn from something if you don't identify the mistake, So if I know, okay, this is where I messed up, okay, I can learn from that. If I'm like, hey, that was bad, but I don't know what I did wrong, then there's no lesson to be learned. So that's my fear with it. But you're right. In theory, they should learn from what happened last year, and definitely Nick Sirianni. And I would throw Jalen Hurts in there, maybe even above Nick Sirianni. You're the on-field leader of the team, and that team didn't end well last year. What can you learn from that as the quarterback of the team to move forward and not let that happen again? Hopefully Jalen Hurts knows the answer to that.
Do you think Nick Sirianni is going to show professionalism this year? Or do you think that in times when the team, because they panicked last year and they had a knee-jerk reaction on many issues last year, like you said, it wasn't just one thing that caused it, but this year he's in a different role. And he wears his emotions on his sleeves, Zander. He's not a guy that sits there when the highs are high, he sits level, and when the lows are low, he's level. He's a very emotional. Would it be fair to say he may be the most emotional guy in the Philadelphia Eagle locker room?
Yeah, I do. I think that's very fair. I
But
do.
I don't think the head coach should have that characteristic. Do you?
No, I don't. And that's what I've always disliked about Jalen, or not Jalen Hurts, about Nick Sirianni, that I felt like Jalen Hurts was the guy that was,
Yes.
yeah, being the mature one. And I don't think, as much as people are like, oh, it's a good dynamic, it works for I don't really think so. I think Jalen Hurts wants a man, a leader, a guy that knows how to lead, and a guy that doesn't get like this when something
Saban.
good. Yeah, well, exactly. He liked that style of
He
coaching,
did.
and it worked for him. And even when he went to Lincoln Riley, who's obviously not like Nick Saban, but he was not a bull. He was not a a rah-rah type of guy. He was an offensive-minded guy that wanted to get into the play and have a productive offense. And I don't think, I thought Jalen with Doug Peterson was great. I always say I would have loved to have seen what Jalen Hurts became in this league with Doug Peterson, because I go back to Jalen Hurts' first couple games starting, which was his rookie year. He only played 4 games. Remember when they put Wentz on the bench? That Arizona game that year, Jalen was throwing that ball around the yard, and that was his first year. He was a lesser developed quarterback at the time, and he was throwing the ball like better than I've seen in some of the recent games in recent years. So I would have loved to have seen that, but yeah, I don't want to write off Nick because it means I got to write off the season, but I am not a Nick. I just don't like his style as a head coach. I really don't.
Well, here's what I will say about what would have happened, in my opinion, with Doug coaching Jalen. I think he would have had honest conversations with him. I think he would have told him things. Jalen would have respected it. And again, dude, one of the greatest moments of coaching was that Philly, is that it's a trust relationship thing with your quarterback in tight moments, in incredibly high pressure moments. And you got a guy here, and I'll always say this, I get goosebumps still talking about it. You got a guy with papers like this. He puts it down. He goes, let's run it. And he's got 100 of these things. He's looking at the right play in the most critical moment in Philadelphia Eagle history, and he goes like this, let's run it.
Yeah.
And that kind of coaching, Zander, I can't tell you how far that goes for confidence. Look at Andy, on how Andy coaches Mahomes like that. Remember when they were on the sidelines, and I forget the former coordinator that was in there, and they were throwing a bitch at each other.
Bieniemy?
What's that? Yeah, Bieniemy. Bieniemy and him were screaming at one another. Andy went over there and said, hey, relax. And, relax, you too. And that's when Mahomes went over and sat down. Remember what he did? He took the headset off. He goes, here, you want to be the coordinator? And Andy goes over there, calms it down. That, to me, it's Pat Riley-like coaching, Zander. It's not just about plays and shit. It's
right.
about heart, and it's about moment. It's about trust. I think Jalen Hurts would have been further along in his development as a quarterback if Doug Peterson was still in the building. But that's just my take here. All right.
Me too, but you can't re-legislate it,
Nope, absolutely not. So Big Sil's made some 2024 bold predictions on the honoring of the opening of training camp. Hey, by the way, tell the good folks a little bit before we get into this, some of the programming scheduling differences that you're going to have for Birds 365, because folks, be looking also on JAKIB, because there's going to be a lot of video over the next couple of days that you're going to get from John McMullen, because John's going to be out at NovaCare. So be looking at the network here. Just throw that out just a little bit here.
Yeah, so just Wednesday and Thursday, everybody. Tomorrow and Thursday, Birds 365 will not be in the morning. Birds 365 will be actually right out of the National Football Show here with Dan Sileo. It'll be 6 to 8 p.m., and the reason for that is John has to get down. Their practices are at 10 a.m. They have media availability beforehand, so John's got a 30 or 40-minute drive in there, so he's probably leaving around 7:30, 8 in the morning, getting down there. He's going to analyze, see everything, send the video, and then we'll have a night show. But our promise to you, as I mentioned, is 2 hours of content on Birds 365 no matter what. So tomorrow and Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m., right after the National Football Show, Birds 365 will be live on the air. And then 8 a.m., for anybody that wants to check in with me in the morning, I'm going to be doing a solo quick 30-minute preview to the day for the Eagles training camp, which I'll be doing alone tomorrow. And then I should have John from the car. So with just a graphic, but I should have him on Thursday morning. So we'll just do that. A quick preview to the day. Then we'll get into, the day content in terms of what the team is doing. National Football Show will be live at 2:00. Birds 365 will be live at 6 p.m.
Okay, here we go. The Big Sills, I want to get Zander's take on the Big Sills 2024 bold predictions. Number 1, I got Jordan Mailata, first team All-Pro.
I like it. I don't know if that's bold, but I like it.
Okay. Number 2, Devontae Smith has more receiving yards than A.J. Brown.
Oh, that's bold. That's bold. I like that, though. I think they're going to be right in the same ballpark. And, depending on how defenses approach the team, I think that's a good, bold prediction. I think Devontae Smith takes a big step forward. My only fear with that would be that would require Jalen Hurts to throw him the ball more. And Jalen has shown a propensity to go to A.J. Brown a lot, even in moments when he's double and triple covered. So that bold prediction kind of has other things out there where you're kind of counting on the quarterback to throw him the ball more. I'm not sure if Jalen does that, but I do like the bold prediction because I think Devontae Smith is a better player this year, coming into the year than he was last year.
Number 3, Nick Sirianni will be fired on Black Monday, the Monday following the regular season.
Oof. Yeah, it's tough to go against that one. I mean, if they succeed, then no. So I'm gonna disagree with it in theory because I believe the Eagles will win a playoff game this year, and I don't think they're gonna fire Nick after winning a playoff game. But you're right in terms of he's on the hot seat, and if this thing doesn't reach expectations, he is as good as gone. So from that perspective, you can't rule it out, but I'm going to disagree with it for the sake of the conversation.
Number 4, the Eagles finished second in the NFC East.
Disagree. Major disagree. I do not see that at all. I think the Cowboys take a step back this year. I think they're a 10-win team. I think the Eagles are a 12, 13-win team this year. And I think the Eagles
win team. Holy shit. Whoa.
Listen, what have the Cowboys done for you to be like they're going to win the NFC East?
I don't think anybody in that division is going to win more than 10 games. I mean, 10, 9, somewhere in there. I mean,
Shooter says 13 wins. Are you on meth?
hey, I don't believe that division is good.
No, they're not. I mean, based on your projections, they're going to be the NFC least.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah, back to that. No, I don't know.
Hey, by the way,
I don't see the Cowboys winning.
You have a superstar offense, but you don't have a superstar roster.
Listen, how many games you have? What, 6 games versus the NFC East? You got 2 versus the Cowboys, 2 versus the Giants, 2 versus the Commanders. I think you're 5-1 in those games. I think you lose. You split with the Cowboys, you beat the Giants, and you beat the Commanders both times each. Why are you giving me that face?
Because you got beat by Tyrod Taylor last year.
So you think we're going to lose to the Giants this year?
I didn't think I thought you'd sweep the Giants last year.
Okay, so what's your all right? So they have 6 games versus the NFC East. What's going to be the Eagles' record?
Versus the East, I think Washington's going to split. I think the Cowboys are going to split, and depending on what that thing looks like at the end of the year, where you are, playoffs or not, you probably split. I think you split every game. I think you're 3-3 in the division.
All right.
I do.
I don't.
What were you in the division last year? Let me. What was it?
So the same Dan Sileo.
Wait a minute.
Wait. The same Dan Sileo who on this show said, I think the Giants are the worst team in the NFL. Not in the NFC, not in the NFC East. The worst team in the NFL.
They are.
They're going to beat the highly talented $175 million.
With the worst team in the East last year.
Okay, I will agree to disagree. I think at worst they go 4-2 and they split with the Commanders and the Cowboys.
Okay. All right. Bold prediction 2024. Big sales. Eagles missed the playoffs.
Oh, that's for blasphemous. Get out of here. The NFC as a whole isn't good enough for the Eagles to miss the playoffs. They would have to be that if they're going to, all right, if they miss the playoffs, This thing is going to be blown up before we even reach the end of the season. Nick will be fired before the last game. Jalen, it's potential that Jalen spends a game on the bench, and it is utter chaos in the city. If that's how it goes, it will be chaos in the city.
You'll think this is a Trump rally.
Yeah, literally. You're right.
Okay, next one. Saquon Barkley plays in 12 ball games.
Is that bold?
Well, shit. Long as it's the last 12.
Yeah, well, that might not be how it goes. But let me look up real quick. How many games has he played the last several years?
I think he had 2 years ago. He played in like 14.
Okay, so the last 4 years. You ready?
Yeah.
2 games played in 2020, 13 games played in 2021, 16 games played in 2022, 14 games played in 2023.
So how many games he missed?
Oh, well, the 2020, he only played 2 games. So he basically missed that whole year. Then he played 13.
That's a 14, that's 16 season. That's still the last of the 16 season.
Okay, so then he missed 4 games in 21. He missed 1 game in 22, and he missed 3 games in 2023. So you're saying he's going to miss 5 games in the last 3 years. Yeah, maybe it's a little drop off, but my point is that's not a bold prediction. He hasn't been a healthy running back. I will disagree with it, though, because I think he has a better offensive line this year, and he's not going to have the same type of setup as he had in New York with a shitty football team and a shitty offensive line and a shitty quarterback and shitty coaching and a shitty organization. So I'm gonna take the no on that, and I'll say he plays 15 games, misses 2.
The next bold prediction: Jalen Carter has 9.5 sacks.
That's another non-bold. Do you know what bold means? Shooter's right.
Wait a minute. You really think that getting 9 sacks is easy in the inside?
No, I don't. But I think
when's the last time you had a 10-sack interior defensive lineman? Can you name him?
But my point is that I know it's hard, but Jalen he already put up 6 last year.
Okay.
As a rookie. So you're projecting a 33%.
Fletcher had 6 as a rookie.
33% increase is not a bold prediction from year 1 to year 2. It's just not.
Getting 10 sacks as an interior defensive tackle if he has 9.5 sacks, he'll be first team All-Pro.
I know that, which is great, but he showed that he has that talent last year, which is why I don't think it's a bold prediction.
So what do you think? 15 sacks is a bold prediction?
No, I think if you said 12, 13, 14 sacks, I'd say that's very bold. I think he gets 10 sacks this year. I think that's right on the number. I think you're right on the number. I would be curious to know what the Vegas number is.
Oh, that's right, Dan. Thank you, Dan. You're right. I forgot. Hargrave had 11 in 22. That's why he got that $20 million deal. Think about that for a second, Dan. One of the reasons why Javon Hargrave was not great against the run, he's okay against the run. He got a $20 million contract in a contract year because he had 11 sacks that 22 season. What's the number on Carter? Do you know?
I'm trying to find it. I don't think I can't find it anywhere. I don't know. Let me go in Odds Shopper here and see if I can find it. If anybody that's a better, I'm not a better, so I'm not, to be blunt, I'm not good at finding these odds as good as some other people are, but I'd like to find what the player props are. There's nothing coming up for his player props. So I think Vegas probably has it at 8. I mean, he had 6 in his rookie year. You got to factor in a small increase at least.
Okay. Well, with more volume of plays too. We'll see.
My bold prediction is that Dan's next bold prediction will actually be bold.
Okay. Bryce Huff has 6.5 sacks.
Oh my God. That is bold. That is bold. If he has 6.5 sacks, you better, there's not going to be a peep about Joe Douglas and how he handled Haason Reddick. That will be tragic. Our defense will stink out loud because nobody will be getting home, and that will be a major problem. 6.5?
6.5.
That is low. That is low. He needs to produce more than that. So I would say that's very bold, and I'm going to take the over on that. I think he goes at least 10. At least 10.
10.
He had 10 last year in New York.
Oh, okay. Well, he's in a different role this year. He's got the big boy pants on now. He ain't at the little kiddie table where he's a backup. He's
That's
now
true.
at the big boy table. This is the dinner table when you're down there at Cape May, and the Krauses are sitting around getting ready for turkey dinner, and everybody's at the big table, not the
All
kiddie
right,
table
all
with the sippy cups.
All right. 10 sacks last year, 17 games played. Look, I think he has 10 plus sacks this year. At least, I think it's more like a 12, 13 sack year for him. And I feel pretty good about that. 6.5 is Bryce Huff will be booed out of Philly with 6.5 sacks. Booed out of Philly.
Okay, here's the next one. Nolan Smith will have 3.5.
First round draft pick. What did he have last year? 2? He had 2 last year, right? He had
Check.
2. Oh boy. If he's got 3.5, boy,
So that means you got 9.5. That means you got 10 sacks between two dudes.
barely. You're barely getting
And
10
last
sacks
year,
in a
Reddick
season.
had 11 in an offseason.
Oof. He better beat 3. I think he beats 3.5, but you're not wrong. I mean, he hasn't. What has he showed? He showed absolutely nothing. Nothing. Not a smither of hope for him to have more than 3.5. So, from that perspective, I understand why you made that a bold prediction, but I think he beats it. I really do. I think he gets 5, 6.
Can I tell you something off the cuff here? What I would do to get pressure? Just
Sure.
I don't know. I'd take that Devin White kid's ass, line him up with that 4.4 that he has, and make that dude into Reddick and make him rush the corner. He runs a 4.4. He had 6 sacks his second year in the league. I mean, he knows how to get there.
I know, but he's 6 foot 230. I guess Haason is 6'1",
What is he,
230.
6'1"? Haason Reddick, 6'1"?
Yeah, Reddick is 6'1". Devin's 6 foot. Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know. You're right. It's an interesting point because now Mike is 6'3", 245. That's where I think he's a little small, but where you're right is Devin White is very athletic. It's never the knocks on him have never been athletic. So maybe if you put his foot in the turf and say, go get him, maybe he is more effective that way. Remember, he had that 10 sack year, didn't he? That one year
the year they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So I just don't think they're going to go there with him, but I kind of like it. I kind of like that from you.
Don't you think you have to be a little bit creative with some of the people that you have over there? Because I will agree with you on this, Zander. I don't think you have a lot of experience on that side of the ball, but you know what you do have a lot of? You have a lot of athleticism. Hey, rush that kid Cooper DeJean off the freaking corner.
Yeah.
That kid runs a 4.4.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, bring him. But see, again, this is not what Nick likes to do because when you bring pressure, what's that mean? Well, it's all or nothing. And that's not something he likes control and contain. But he did have a really good year last year in Miami with the sack numbers breaking a Dolphin record here. Okay, so those are my bold predictions. I want to throw this at you here. Not named
You don't have any bold predictions on Jalen Hurts, or is that where you're going now?
No. Well, no, I made a bold prediction. Oh, wait, maybe I didn't say this. I think here's one. That Jalen Hurts, his numbers will resemble 2023 passing numbers. I don't think he's going to be any better.
All right. Well, that's not very bold, but I like it. I mean, I think you're probably right.
Well, wait a minute. You know why it's bold? It better not be.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, boy. Well, listen. What if he has the same?
What I think 25.
Wait. No. Let me say this though. What if he has the same numbers, but he cuts his turnovers in half?
Being an NFC title game.
Okay. So
but do you not agree that he got those interceptions last year throwing on the numbers? They didn't even throw across the middle of the field. They're going to try to have him throw across the middle of the field. When you throw across the middle of the field, that's higher turnover rate.
Yeah.
When you're throwing across traffic like that.
The fumbles are also
say that the numbers are going to come down turnover wise. Hey, Zander, a tip pass in traffic.
Yeah.
A guy fumbling, shit like that. You have more issues on turnovers with tip passes across the middle. That's why they tried limiting him on going there. What was his quarterback rating? 8 across the middle after Goddard went down. All of those turnovers he had were on the numbers. Now they're going to try to open up the middle of the field. That means you're going to throw more passes that have a higher turnover rate. 22. The reason he didn't have such a high turnover, he didn't have high turnover rate because he wasn't throwing difficult passes, because his running and his legs made those passing lanes a lot open. They were wider open. They were more mature routes because of their fear that he was going to take off. In 23, they were shorter routes, and he held the ball longer, and the blitzing. So Kellen Moore is going to come in there and change that. I just can't see that in 1 year or in 6 months since he's been hired. I find that to be a really big time reach. Now, Todd Monken went into Baltimore, Zander, and turned Lamar Jackson into an MVP. Okay? I mean, can it happen? I think they went more to his style. I think they're asking Hurts to do a little bit different than what they're asking. I don't think they're asking Lamar to throw more, but they are asking Jalen to throw more. And I think that's going to create a little bit more time. 25, in my opinion, is going to be when you're going to see the best of Jalen Hurts if they keep the coordinator intact.
Yeah, you're right. No doubt about it. I have a bold prediction. So I wrote one down that I had coming in, and you are going to, this is a bold prediction. Okay. This is a bold prediction. The Philadelphia Eagles will have the #1 ranked offense in the NFL. That's my bold prediction. They will have the best offense in terms of yardage, offense in the NFL.
Based on, well, they were 8th last year.
That's what I mean. You got Kellen. You got the talent still there. You got Saquon. And I think Kellen Moore is going to be immensely better than whatever the hell they had last year was. He had the #1. Remember, he had the #1. Screw Nick. Nick's not a part of this offense this year. That's how they're talking. That's how they're framing it up. So that's how I'm talking about it.
Okay.
Listen, Kellen had the #1 offense
twice.
Yes, already in Dallas. Now, Hurts is a lot different than Prescott, but outside of that, the team was kind of built similarly. They had the good receivers. They had Amari, and I forget who they had. Did they have Gallup at the time? I don't think they had Sileo.
Yeah, Michael Gallup.
They had Michael Gallup. They had Zeke and Pollard. So I think, that's my.
And they had that tight end too. I think his name was Gesicki.
Gesicki? No, did they have him?
I think they had a tight end in there too that was pretty good. I forget who the tight end was, but the Cowboys had that tight end in there. By the way, I like Twiz. Twiz's bold prediction is better.
Yeah, we got 2 of those.
Top 10 defense.
Yeah, they got 2 of those here.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that one. I'll just say that. I'm not going to go there with the defense. I don't know how good the defense is going to be this year. Schultz, that's it. Yeah, Schultz.
Schultz, that's it. Way to go. Okay, one last one here.
Dallas.
One last one here. Not named Hurts. Oh, no. Throw Hurts in this. The 2024 offensive identity of the Eagles. This will be the year of Barkley, Hurts, AJ, or Devontae.
You want me to pick one?
Yeah.
Hurts. Well, here's why. Because if it's any of
the offensive star in 3 years.
Okay, well, if it's any of the other guys, guess what? We're not going to reach expectations. When it was A.J. Brown last year, who had 1,500 yards, what did that get us? Absolutely nothing. Devontae Smith had 2 straight 1,000-yard years. What did that get us? Absolutely nothing. When Jalen Hurts was at the top of the MVP voting, we went to the Super Bowl and came within 1 drive of raising a banner. Jalen Hurts, it needs to be Jalen Hurts. I will stand by that. Now, you might be right that it's not going to be him, but we need him to be the guy. Shooter says it got you 10-1. Yeah, it got you the halfway through the year Super Bowl championship. It's a week 11, and the Eagles are the champions of the first 11 weeks. That's what it got us. They sound like the Cowboys. Sound like the fucking Cowboys.
I was just thinking the same thing here. The bold prediction, though, baby. Eagles missed the playoffs. I'm with Angelo.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Wait a minute. Angelo's got you at 5 wins. At least I got you at 7.
Angelo, come on, man. Come on, Angelo. Angelo knows better than that. You know what else Angelo knows? He knows how to do a talk show. And he knows how to create some headlines, and he knows how to make people make comments in the chat, and he knows how to get views and impressions and clicks and all those things. 5 wins, that is outrageous. If they have 5 wins, how bad will the nuclear explosion be? Will it be just the coaching staff?
No.
Will the coordinator be on the block, or the quarterback be on the block? Will Howie be on the block?
I don't think they would fire Howie, but what
No,
they
they're
would
not. I've
do-
said that. They're not.
No, but what they would do, I think the owner would come down on him.
Oh, for sure. For sure. No doubt about it. 5 wins. 5 wins with this team. Come on, man. Where's my boy James Jones? He's got to be in here. I know James. James Jones, where you at?
Hey, I got James Jones as Washington Commanders winning the East.
James. He's not an Eagle fan. He's a Commander fan. Tell us that you know we're better than a 5-win football team, James. I know
Don't
you
do
know
it,
it, James. James, you know it. We're better than a 5-win team.
James, don't do it.
Don't listen to this clown. We are better than a 5-win football team.
James, let me throw this. He won't, because he's an Eagle fan. He won't admit it. But in the last 2 years, the team's regressed. Just as the quarterback has.
The team has definitely regressed. They were on the Super Bowl and they went 1-7 or 1-6 down the stretch.
Then how are you and Big Bill telling me you're better now?
I didn't say that. I said they still have a good chance to win. You got more experienced coordinators. Maybe you have a lesser talented roster. James says regress bad. Okay, James, over under 5 wins for the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, tell me over or under. That's it. That's all you got to type. Over, under. 5 wins. That's your over under.
More than 5.
Oh, now you're switching, Sills.
No, I said 7.
You said 7. Angela says 5.
Yeah.
I mean, can we just?
I think you're 7 and 9.
Let me just pull up real quick.
I think you're 7 and 9.
Dude, come on, Sills.
No, dude, you're looking only on one side of the ball. I'm looking at the whole team.
No, that's not true. I'm not looking at one side of the ball.
You don't have the advantage in that Packer game. You have the advantage in the Falcon game, the Saints game. It's kind of a push in the Bucs game. Bucs are pretty good on defense and pretty good on offense. They're not exceptional, but they didn't have to be exceptional last year to beat you. The Browns have more talent than you on both sides of the ball, and they got better coaching. The Giants alone.
Here we go. Packers.
That's an L.
Okay, so if you have 5 wins, though, you
okay,
gotta identify.
I don't
losses, man. 5 wins. Like, you got the Giants on here twice, the Commanders on here twice. You got the Panthers on here. You got the Jaguars on here. You got the Saints, the Falcons, the Bucs, the Browns. I mean, 5 wins. The Steelers. Yeah. Come on, man. 5 wins.
So here, you're not beating the Packers. You're beating the Falcons.
That's 1 win.
You're beating the Saints.
That's 2 wins.
You're losing to the Bucs.
Okay.
You're losing to the Browns. You're beating the Giants.
That's 3 wins.
You're losing to the Bengals. You're losing to the Jags. You're losing to the Cowboys. You're losing to the Commanders. You're losing to the Rams. You're losing to Baltimore. You're beating the Panthers.
That's 4 wins.
The season's already unraveled here. You're losing to the Steelers. You're going to beat Washington. You're going to beat Dallas.
There's 6.
And you're going to beat the Giants. Like I said, 7 wins.
Holy shit. Sills, if that happens, this is going to be a fun program for a little while.
What game do you think this thing's going to be the turning point of whether it's a success or failure? What game do you think's the tipping game? Because the first 4 are Packers, Falcons, Saints, and Bucs. Do you think that Packer game, how important do you think that game is on how this team looks getting out of the gate? Because I'm with you. Listen, if they don't look that sharp against that team, I'm not going to melt down on that, because if I get down to the Baltimore game and they look the same, then you got a problem. Okay?
Baltimore
Or the
Week
Bengal
13.
game.
They better
Hey,
not look like crap in week 13.
I'll tell you what, that week 8 game against the Bengals, in my opinion, is going to tell you where your season goes.
Wait, which game?
The Bengal game in week 8.
Yeah, come on. You know that. You've been around the NFL long enough to know that one game in the regular season doesn't dictate anything.
Well, if you lose that game, then you got Jags, Cowboys, Commanders, Rams, Baltimore. That's a nice little stretch of ball games. And you got to go to Los Angeles on Sunday night to play the Rams. I mean, you got to go across the country. You got Commanders at home on a Thursday night. Then you got Thursday night ball and then Sunday night ball the following week playing the Rams in LA.
All right, so we used to have Barrett Brooks on, and everybody keeps wanting us to get Barrett on. Barrett has been axed. They are no longer letting Barrett talk on JAKIB Sports, just so everybody knows that. Barrett still likes us. We still have great conversation with Barrett, but the Eagles have told him that he's no longer allowed on our programs. But anyway, Barrett used to say, I look at games in four games at a time. And I look at 4-game groupings to you kind of get your identity after 4 games, and then you can look at them in 4-game groupings. They have that first 4 games: Packers, Falcons, Saints, Bucks. And then the next 4 games are the Browns, Giants, Bengals, and Jags. After those 8 games, you're gonna know. You're gonna know how good this team is going to be. If they don't look good in any of those first 8 games with the bye week in the middle of it, forget about it. Forget about it. But I think they will. I think they're going to be better than that. I think they're going to win many more games than you're anticipating. The 7-win prediction is just outrageous. It's outrageous.
7, your defense is not good enough. Wait a minute. Let me get this right.
Our defense was the 31st ranked pass defense in the league last year, and they won 11 games.
Hey, and you're going to stop Jordan Love. I can't wait to see Cousins going again. By the way, Cousins versus the 2023 defense versus Cousins versus the 2024 Eagle defense. That's a little different. You got Carr.
But Dan, the defense was catastrophic last year, and they won 11 games.
Well, you were 31st in passing last year.
Yeah.
So let's just put this out there. You don't think a guy in 5 games last year had 18 touchdown passes versus the worst secondary in pro football and now the most inexperienced pro secondary in pro football? How do you think that guy's going to do who just got a $50 million deal? Good or bad?
Good.
Right. Okay. You pay Cousins that money, not because he wins games. You pay him because he threatens you.
He's also how old? 38?
Is he something like that? He could be. Shit, he's made $500 million.
And he's coming off an Achilles. He's 35. He's not 38. 35. 35.
Yeah, 35 with an Achilles is 38.
Exactly. So, I don't know about that one. But listen, the boldest take of your bold takes is that the Eagles are going to win 7 games. Where's Flexen? Flexen just got back in here. Flexen, man. He's an Eagles fan, but he's not a delusional Eagle fan. He calls it how he sees it. Flexen, how many wins do the Eagles have this year? Let's see what Flexen has to say. How many wins, Flexen, will the Philadelphia Eagles have today? And here's your look at the schedule if you need to look at it one more time. How many wins will the Philadelphia Eagles have?
7-9. 7-9, baby.
Flex.
7-9. That's exactly what Big Sills predicted.
Flex and
7-9.
Barb, what do you got? What does Barb got?
7-9. Yes, sir. Barb.
Sills has turned the tide on the fan. 7-9.
12 wins, Barb. Get them. Where?
Let's go, Barb. Let's go, Barb.
Come on, Yale.
Yeah, showing us got 13.
Otherwise, it's a failure. 11. Zander's got 20 wins or something. I think I heard 13 or some shit.
20
Zander's
wins.
got like 13 wins. I'm like, oh my God.
Historic season, 17-0, and sweep the playoffs for a Super Bowl champion. That's how I got him.
God.
Listen,
Unbelievable. Zander, great stuff, man. I'll tell you what. You know what, though? To be candid, man, I've heard a lot of your guests, Zander, and you're either on one side of the aisle on how well they think they're going to do this year. Some people think they're going to do exceptionally well, and then some people think that they're not. I mean, 7-9 wins. Got to be real.
I mean, we had Zach Berman on, who's doing work for PHLY on YouTube. I'm sure many of you guys see him on YouTube. He was talking about this team like there wasn't a care in the world. There's not a worry coming in. Jalen's going to be an MVP. Devin White's going to be the best linebacker we've had in years. I was listening to him. I'm like, holy shit. Zach Berman has this team like winning the Super Bowl already. But you're right. We have had our fair share of people that are on different sides of the aisle, no doubt.
But I will say this too, Zander, you bring a point up that a lot of people don't factor in. How strong is the NFC to have to maneuver through? It's not the AFC. Some of the best defenses in the NFL are on the AFC side of the ball, not just the best quarterbacks.
Yeah, but that's factored into my projection.
That's why I'm up on Angelo from 5. I got 7. I got 7. I got 7-9, baby.
If we go 7-9,
what an iconic show! Holy shit!
If we go 7-9, Sills. Oh God, I don't even want to think about that.
Okay, don't forget to check out my friend Zander Krause on Birds 365. Right around the corner, we're gonna have our friend Merrill Reese, the legendary voice of the Philadelphia Eagles. Zander, great stuff, my friend.
Great stuff, Sills. I'll catch you tomorrow, brother.
Depressing. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.